Hey, fellow babies, welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We are hopeful you're watching this real time as a Patreon patron. If you are, thank you very much. Another way to do this is to be a YouTube subscriber. And again, thank you very much if you're doing that. You'll also get it fast if you are linked with your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch Prime account. That costs nothing. It's really easy to do. The instructions on how to do it are right below my face. So if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can stick it to Amazon. They will actually pay Shane if you link your account. Stick it to them. It's free.
This episode of Pachter Factor is brought to you by DeShazer Ryan Realty. Right now, Doug DeShazer has beautiful lots available adjacent to Koocanusa Lake in northwest Montana. Pull up your RV and access the hookups, or build your own construction. Either way, you have access to world-class fishing, hunting, boating, swimming, biking, hiking, and the internet. No matter where you're looking to buy, make Doug DeShazer your real estate consultant at 406-291-1643. That's Doug DeShazer at 406-291-1643.
From Sifted, from Damp Towel Man. Insomniac and Naughty Dog were notably affected by PlayStation's layoffs, despite how successful Spider-Man 2 and the media expansion of The Last of Us have been. It's also been reported that EA has canceled Respawn's Star Wars first-person shooter, even though the studio excels at making games in that genre. What goes into the decision-making process of layoffs and project cancellations for companies this large? Were these the right cost-cutting measures to take? Good question. Layoffs are reactive. They're not proactive. So companies, when they plan poorly, they staff up to a level that is unsustainable. And when they recognize that their plans are wrong, they adjust. I really have trouble with companies that overhire and lay people off. I think that is just a dumb way to run a business. There are some really lean companies that, brag about never laying anybody off. Even some of those guys, Epic would be a good example, occasionally realize that they bit off more than they could chew. I think that the companies that explain it, so I'll give Epic as an example, they bought, 3 or 4 or 5 different businesses and decided to shut down 2 of them. When they shut them down, they were like, okay, we're not going to pursue this anymore. And I don't remember what they were, some social media stuff. And we're just not going to pursue this anymore. Okay, that's okay. EA, I think, as much as I beat on them for letting people off, they pretty much said, we have to wean ourselves from the licensed business and focus on owned IP. Now, that's rich because, their biggest franchise is EA Sports Football Club, which is the old FIFA. And Madden is a big title for them. It's obviously not their number 2, but it's way up there. So I think, they hate licenses except when it's FIFA. But I think they're right. I think that they looked at Activision's valuation, and Activision pretty much was all owned IP. I mean, not 100%, but mostly 90. And I think that is the right model for most of these guys. And licensed IP, the royalty rate ranges from single digit 7% for crappy stuff to, as high as 20%. And I think Star Wars was very solidly 15. I think the FIFA and overall soccer league, different soccer leagues, license was north of 20. When EA dropped FIFA to knock that down into the teens, and that makes perfect sense. But I think that they can't manage Disney, and Disney doesn't license Star Wars exclusively to anybody. So Take-Two Zynga has Star Wars Hunters coming out. I mean, there's Star Wars mobile games. There's Star Wars all over the place. So I think that when you're getting out of a business, the layoffs make sense. I think they make sense to the affected employees as well. Not that people are particularly happy about it when they get laid off, but a canceled project. Microsoft said we laid off a bunch of people because there's redundancies from the Activision acquisition. Blizzard cut a project, and the people working on that project lost their jobs. I will say it's great to be in a low unemployment environment and when you lose your job. I'm not saying it's great to lose your job, but it's great that we're at 3-point-something% unemployment. And so when people get laid off, it's pretty easy to find a job. It might not be exactly what you're looking for, but you'll be able to pay your rent and eat and take care of your family. It's terrible when unemployment is 9, 10, 12%. And when I came out of school, unemployment was 9%. So I've lived through really tough job markets, and I actually went to school for an extra year after getting a law degree because I didn't know what to do, no jobs. But the answer to your question is, it makes a lot more sense for companies to plan perfectly and know exactly how much to build and how much to expand. It is really hard when you have management like Sony's that thinks you can turn every game into a live service and then discovers you can't. That's a hard pill to swallow when you realize that you can't. So a lot of their layoffs were stuff like that. I don't think that Spider-Man is necessarily the reason for the layoffs. I think it's Spider-Man 2. I think it might be the live service component of Spider-Man that they probably aren't going to do it. But so I think this is really Sony being bad at live services and envying the guys who are good at it. And I don't want to nail Sony only for this. They're all like that. Activision, it took them forever to develop it. EA, it took them forever to develop it, and they're still not good at it in everything. They're really good at it in FIFA. Apex is really good. Ubi's been struggling with live services in every game forever. It's just hard. So I think that, having grand aspirations leads to staffing up, and then recognizing your aspirations are wrong and won't work leads to staffing down. So poor planning, the executives are the ones who should actually bear the brunt of the blame. I don't really blame EA for the shift in strategy to let's focus on owned IP. I think that that's been several years coming, and I think it's just hard to wean yourself from Star Wars. But honestly, all these guys do really well with owned IP. And there are some brands, Spider-Man's a really good brand for video games. It just is. Star Wars is a really good brand for video games too. Sports sims, obviously it's better to play sports with the real NFL and NBA and soccer, FIFA athletes. So, I get it, but the answer is planning. And the decision-making process is we're overstaffed. They should be looking at this, and it should be part of the 5-year budget. I think the red flag should be if your staff grows by 10% and your revenue doesn't, and you don't have a forecast that shows that revenue is going to grow by 10%, why did you justify the hiring? And the person who made the hiring decision should be fired, which is the CEOs of these guys. Which none of them are getting fired. It's never their fault. It's always the people around them. And in fairness to Andrew Wilson, he did not decide revenues were going to go up by 10%. People who work for him decided that. And so EA just reorganized, and they're taking all their different live services businesses and putting it under the brand. That might be a really smart way to do it. Instead of having mobile all be in one division, mobile for FIFA is going to work for the FIFA brand, and mobile for Madden is going to work for the Madden brand. I think that might actually work. I don't know. We're going to find out. But that reorganization led to layoffs. And in fairness again to EA, they cut the Kardashian game. What happened to the studio? Nobody knows, but my guess is, launched. They cut Tap Sports Baseball. What happened to that studio? So again, these people are talented. They will get other jobs. There are plenty of good jobs out there, but I can't answer your question about what goes into decision making because it's different in every situation. And ultimately it comes down to we're staffed for revenue of X and our revenue looks like it's going to be 0.9X. So we need 10% fewer people to get there. That's really as simple as it is. Remember, EA, like I said, EA is talking out of both sides of their mouth when they say we're going to focus on own brands. Of course they are. But, Star Wars Jedi, which I guess is an RPG more than anything, action game, it's not a shooter game. And I think a Star Wars shooter game, which was the old Battlefront series, that might not be something people want to play now. The Star Wars shooter games, like, would you rather make a Star Wars shooter game or a Battlefield shooter game? Because you don't pay a royalty on Battlefield, and you do pay a royalty on Star Wars. And I think that was the decision. I think EA overstated it, saying we're going to focus on own brands, because I think it sent the message that we're getting out of the license business, and they're not. I think they will keep licenses when they think they can be differentiated and sell more units because of the license. I just think, like in the Star Wars shooter setting, that the Mandalorian shooter setting, they won't make more money. They will make less money. So the answer is they are trying to be more profitable. And I think that they are owned by shareholders. Their shareholders want them to be more profitable. They are responding to their shareholders' needs by being more profitable. Does that mean somebody will pay a premium for them when they own more IP? Sure. That's how Activision got sold, because they owned all that Blizzard IP, and they owned Call of Duty, and to whatever we think of, Skylanders and Guitar Hero, whatever else they own. So my view is that EA is just trying to be responsive to shareholders. And again, I like that company. I think it's a good company. But if you've noticed, they haven't really released much new stuff in a while. And I think it's because they've been struggling with these decisions that, do we want to push this content out, this license that's not going to make any money? And so I support what they did. It is unfortunate for the people who lost their jobs. I do feel for those people. And the silver lining is they're being let go in an environment where there are jobs out there. So, again, they may have to move, and they may have to change industries, but game developers are competent, talented people. I mean, they have application. Their skill set applies in a variety of settings, and there are plenty of companies hiring, good programmers. So they have a future. I really think they do. But again, I know people who are laid off. I hate seeing it, and I'm hopeful that everybody ends up on their feet and does well. You are paying for your Amazon Prime subscription, so link it to your Twitch Prime subscription. Stick it to Amazon. If you just follow the steps below and link, they pay Shane. It costs you nothing. You don't get a bill. It's all part of your subscription. Take advantage of that, or you are a dope. So you're either lazy or stupid. Which would you prefer to be? Lazy or stupid? Okay? Don't be lazy. Don't be stupid. Link your Twitch Prime account to your Amazon Prime account, please, so Shane can afford to keep paying for gas and coming out here and seeing me and talking to my wife and petting my dog and being a good dude. Okay, that was it for today's Pachter Factor. We will see you next time.